So this machine rotated down right where I was standing. It would have crushed me. And I mean, it would have crushed me like you'd crush a fly with a fly swatter, just splat. Dear Steve, when we talked on the phone on 3/16/2024, you asked me if I could tell a story. Well, one did come to mind after our call. Several years ago, while driving on the highway, the traffic was moving well when I heard a voice saying, "Switch lanes." I asked, "What?" It said to switch lanes. So I did. No sooner did I switch, the traffic suddenly stopped. I had just enough room to swerve and stop. A motorcycle had spilled in the lane I was in. More than a few cars ran into each other. Yes, I thank God for saving my life. Jack, your fan and friend, Jack Dorsey. Jack, thank you for sending that in to me. That's really cool, and something I've thought a lot about. So on the channel here, and oh, by the way, welcome to Talk About Strange. Thank you for joining me here today. This is kind of a different episode than I normally have. Typically, I'm reading stories. This is more of a talking head and just kind of going over some of the stuff that we've discussed on here on the channel and stuff I'm learning about that I actually didn't know anything about, really, for the most part, for years that I've learned. And this is one of those things, and it just kind of rang a bell with me because I've experienced myself. So yeah, welcome to the show and or the channel, and thanks for stopping by. So let's get started with this. Anyway, so I've had this happen to me as well, Jack. So I went to get a job at a big company, you might have heard of it, Mobile Chemical. Mobile Chemical. And we were doing a walkthrough type, it was orientation. We were walking throughout the plant. And I was standing there in a group, and we were kind of crowded. Now, there they have lines that separate where the equipment is and stuff, and where you can drive and not drive, where you can walk and not walk. And we had a pretty good sized group. Apparently, I was standing on the other side of one of these lines, safety zones, and I didn't realize it. And I was towards the back corner of the group, so neither did anybody else, where I heard a voice in my head say, "Step aside." I'm like, what? So I just, and I didn't question it. Thank God I didn't question it. I'm just thinking to myself, what? So I stepped to the side. And as soon as I stepped aside, I don't know what they weigh, 2-3 ton. This giant machine, it holds these great big giant rolls of foil. I'm talking huge, massive thing. It rotates, right? For the new one. So this machine rotated down right where I was standing. It would have crushed me. And I mean, it would have crushed me like you'd crush a fly with a fly swatter, just splat, would have broke my neck, my back, whatever. And it was that voice in my head that said, "Step aside." And I stepped aside, right? Just like you. Where did that voice come from? Where did that come from? You gotta wonder. So, I looked up a couple of things before coming on here. I thought it'd be kind of neat. Mindspeak. I looked up Mindspeak because that's one of the things that we hear a lot about, right? And when we're talking about it, we're referring to the Sasquatch people, Bigfoot, Klansmen, whatever you might call them in your area, wherever you're listening. But we refer to them as Klansmen. And a lot of, on the channel, we hear a lot of talk about that, Mindspeak, where people communicate back and forth with Klansmen. They tell them things. And that's the other thing, they're able to communicate. Sometimes it's just, I hear people talking about vibrations and different noises and stuff like that, but somehow they understand most of the time what's being said. Anyway, with this here, this is straight up Googling. Mindspeak can refer to a few things, including telepathy, the ability to communicate through thoughts, the act of expressing one's thoughts or opinions directly, or a specific AI-powered technology for voice harmonization. How interesting is that? So they go on to telepathy. In the context of paranormal abilities, Mindspeak can refer to telepathy, the purported ability to communicate thoughts directly from one person's mind to another without using conventional sensory channels. Then it goes on to expressing thoughts. The phrase speak your mind. Well, we all know what that is. We do a lot of that, right? Is a common idiom that means to express your thoughts or opinions openly and honestly. So we're not really referring to that at all right now in this context. But mindspeak AI technology. This was interesting to find. I don't know if you guys know about this. Mindspeak is a specific AI powered technology that uses voice harmonization to enhance clarity and understanding in multi-trilingual interactions. And then they call it the Mindspeak Project. There's a project called Mindspeak that aims to empower children with aphasia by developing a user-friendly web app that turns thoughts into words. And then it goes on to the company and the consulting, Mindspeak Incorporated, and then Mindspeak Book. There is a book titled Mindspeak, Tapping into Sasquatch and Science, that explores telepathy-related topics. Now that's interesting that they acknowledge that, because a lot of times it's not. No, just out of curiosity, what is this? Mindspeak is a mind magic gift that allows someone to communicate mind to mind. It appears to be one of the most common gifts amongst heralds, allowing most of them to easily communicate with their companions. Very interesting. So that's neat. So anyway, so that's my thought on that. That where does that come from? So you hear voices. So what about when you're half asleep, right? You're dozing off, and all of a sudden you hear a lot of times it's a familiar voice call you, your spouse, your mother, your father. You hear, all of a sudden you hear that voice coming through the fray, and it's like, whoa. And you look around like, who is that, right? I mean, I've had that happen quite a few times. Like I was saying, during that job orientation, I heard a voice that actually moved me out of the way. Kind of like here with Jack, the voice had moved him out of the way. Now I have another set of friends. Geez, I don't even know if they're around anymore. She might have passed by now. I'm not sure. I know her husband passed. I did work for them. She told me about a time that they were driving down this main road. I think it's 89, and they were booking along. And she said she heard a voice of, in fact, don't 100% quote me on this, but I believe it was a deceased relative told her slow down, right? And they were clocking along pretty good. So they came into some fog. That's what it was. Yeah, they were coming into some fog. So it was a deceased relative. I don't remember if it was one of their kids. I think it was their kid that was in the military or something, died, or something like that. Anyway, said to slow down. So she, to her husband, she says, slow down, slow down, slow down. He's like, what? She says, slow down. I think there's an accident ahead. So they slowed right down to a crawl. And just as they slowed down, they were coming up and their lights shined in. And all of a sudden, they seen a whole bunch of lights. And it was a major, major accident that had happened there on that road just before, or on a bridge that was up ahead of them. And they didn't see any of it. So they would have cruised right smack into it like everybody else did. So really amazing stuff when you get that, when that happens and you hear a voice in your head. And you got to wonder where that comes from. And it depends on your faith and who you believe. Is it God? Is it someone from the spirit world talking to you? Who's sharing that voice with you? And then now, so let's talk about the Klansmen or Bigfoot. Are they actually talking to you through Mindspeak? Now, we've had some guests and some people that have written in that we know personally, Claire, for instance, who agrees that there is. And there's several people have told us about their communications back and forth with the Saba. And that's where it's referred to a lot, is Saba. I remember when I couldn't even pronounce Saba. Hope I'm saying it right now. But yeah, the Saba are very well known, and we know that that's Bigfoot. But more of a, when people are referring to the Saba, they're more referring to the Bigfoot as an interdimensional being, if I'm not mistaken, right? This is what you guys have told us and what we've talked about and what we've learned about over this past almost 2 years now. I mean, I have just learned so much about the Saba, Bigfoot, Klansmen. It's just absolutely amazing. And so many other things just in talking about all this stuff. It's, it's just been a huge, amazing experience and eye opener that we've shared with each other. And it's weird because I always referred to how I never expected to end up doing this. I never planned on this. And I've expressed that it's been difficult. It's been a very difficult transformation for me going into doing this type of channel when I never planned on it. So it's been a life change. And the amount of people that I've met is just astronomical. So, and I've often, I've had those experiences often in the woods in different areas where I've heard, a voice in my head. And I've most of the time have just chalked it up to my own inner mind, me talking to myself, or me thinking something through, or you see things with your mind. Your mind will see something way before you can react to it, right? So, like watch that step. You might be thinking, well, I thought that. But is it your mind saying, watch that step, and then all of a sudden you step and it's like too big of a step, or there's something in the way? I did step on a screw once that was like a number 20 screw. It was in plywood. It went all the way through my shoe and out the top. I mean, where was that voice? Where was that voice when that happened? Because it was excruciating. There was nobody around. Fortunately, the only thing I had close by was a crowbar. It was doing a concrete, and it was somehow that got put down there on the ground, and it was out of my eye shot, so I didn't see it when I stepped down onto it. And so I had to use a crowbar and get it under my foot, and I literally had to crowbar my foot up and rip it up out of it. I mean, it was excruciating. So mindspeak or somebody, a voice in my head would have been great at that moment, but that didn't happen. I do remember when I fell 15 feet out of a deer stand, and the step, and by the way, I didn't shoot a deer that day. In fact, I just thought about this. I watched a deer. I had a doe come walking up, and I was so invested in just watching her walk around. She walked underneath me. She took a leak underneath my deer stand, and then just walked off. And it never even dawned on me that I was holding a gun and I could have shot her. But I was never really into it. Not as much as most hunters are. I love venison. I do. I'm not going to lie. But I don't know. I guess there's a point in my life where I enjoyed watching them more than I did shooting them. I guess if I needed to meet more, it'd be a different story. But anyway, so I did not shoot that deer. And so I was leaving my stand, and the run kicked out, and I fell sideways, a full 15 foot, landed sideways on a great big log. If I'm not exaggerating, it was this high, maybe bigger. And I landed sideways on that. It's wonder it didn't break my back. I rolled off from it. I was laying on the ground, trying to decide if I was still alive or not, shaking it off. I couldn't move my left side. I was paralyzed on my left side, basically. And, but I felt the pain. I was paralyzed on my left side. So I checked my gun to make sure it was clear, and I used it to help myself get up. Now, the stock was broke on it and stuff, but I used it to help myself slide up onto the log. And I'm sitting there on that log, right? And so I'm kind of hyperventilating, right? And I get this voice in my head that tells me, you have to get out of here. I think you're going to die of hypothermia. You got to get out of here. Now, I don't know. Was it my own voice? It may have been, but I heard as like an outer distinctive voice say, you've got to get out of here. You're going to die if you don't. You're going to die. And of hypothermia. And so I went to move, and my leg felt like the muscle had been turned into hamburg. Like every movement felt like something was digging its claws in my legs and ripping it open. I mean, the pain was excruciating. So I used my broken gun, and I used it as a crutch, and I hobbled my way out. I don't know, a mile and a half. I don't know what it was. It was a long way out. I hobbled my way out, excruciating pain, managed to get in my vehicle. When I got there, I couldn't move my hands. I had to hook my keys Somehow I managed to get in. I had a van, I think it was at the time. Somehow I managed to get in. I don't remember what happened from there to the point of where I got to McDonald's parking lot and I stopped in the driveway so people couldn't get past me and they'd have to come to me. I don't know how I got to those 2 points. I don't remember at all. I just know that I got to the car and I got my keys and I was fighting to get them in the ignition, or not in the ignition, in the door itself. And I don't remember anything else from that point other than coming to there and hearing a horn beeping. And it was my brother, happened to be the next person in line behind me. So anyway, that's not the story that I'm going to, but what I'm talking about was that voice that I heard that said that I needed to get out of there. How many voices have you guys heard? And I'm talking about with mindspeak. I'm talking about whether it be Saba, and I know we could get overloaded with them, right? Send those stories in. Send some of those stories in. Let us know about that. Some of those things that happen. Put some in the comments or whatever. We'll talk about it. Put some comments out there, and we'll talk about that back and forth. But aside from the Saba Klansmen, what kind of experiences have you had? Have you had any other experiences that saved your life? Those moments, or anything. Just turn, or maybe punch that number on the lotto machine or whatever. Get that ticket. Have you ever had that where something in your mind said number 13, or the box number 13, get that one. Anything like that. So anyway, mind speak. I've heard voices. Have you? I think it's a very interesting topic. Another thing I just wanted to cover real quick is I got this package in my P.O. box from our good friend Rachel, old soul like mine. Rachel has sent me quite a few things. We've had quite a few of you have sent me quite a few wonderful things. I still have some candy treats from, what are they? They're Turkish Delights, and they have this really different flavor. Man, they're so good. It's a unique flavor. And every once in a while I come in here and I grab one of them, but really neat stuff. There's a couple of them, but a lot of really cool stuff. Anyway, I'm looking forward to opening this Sunday. All right. Now I wanted to let you know ahead of time. We're doing a live show, or we're doing our live show Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Rachel is going to be calling in and reciting one of her Bigfoot poems for us. That's going to be just a really special treat. I'm really looking forward to that. Rachel, also like mine, she has her own channel as well. We'll put that up so you can check that out. And she, excuse me, she is self-published as well. She published one of her poem books, and that all happened while we've been building up our channel. Rachel and I have talked back and forth, and she started her own channel, and where she goes on and she's so brave, and she shares her poems, and then she turned around, she put them together, something she'd been thinking about doing and wanting to do, and she put them together, and she published a book of poems. And she makes and designs stuff also. So really cool, really cool. And so she's going to be coming on and reciting one of her poems. So I'm looking forward to that. So you guys make sure you're here for that Sunday show at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And Rachel will call in. We'll have somebody else call in. I'm sure between now and then we'll figure out who that's going to be. Or maybe we'll just do it right there on the spot. We'll have somebody call in and share a story with us or something. So these live shows have been a lot of fun since we started doing that. I really enjoy that because I don't have to do all the talking. Anyway, I know it's not like I don't like to talk. Anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you don't miss that. That is it for now. I hear voices, mind speak, telepathy. So make a comment. Let us know what you think about that. And if you have any really cool stories about that, like really, and if you have any really really good stories on that, we'd love to hear it. So make sure you send that in. And that is it for now. I will see you again really soon.